Do you like Aptera? Do you hate Aptera? Either way, it's definitely an interesting vehicle. And one of the things is it's probably going to be the first production EV that can run on solar power. And that is what piqued my interest because there are some issues with that. And I made a video already on solar powered EVs, and you may want to go watch that right now and then come back to this video so you actually know the issues with all that. So I'm going to put a link up here. If that one doesn't pop up, then look down below. But yeah, that is one of the interesting things, and I want to know if it's worth to get the additional solar that you can purchase as an option on that Aptera. Is it worth $900 or not? Let's shine some light on it. First, before I start this video, I gotta come clean. I'm actually a reservation holder for an Aptera for a couple years already. I do like this vehicle. I think it's really cool. It's the most efficient EV out there. Well, it's not really out there yet, but when it will be. Also, I think it's a perfect vehicle for daily driving. You don't need more than 2 seats. If you look around while you're driving to work every day, you probably notice that there's one person in each vehicle, maybe two. So a 2-seater is plenty. It's got lots of cargo space. It's very aerodynamic, very efficient. It's easy to drive, easy to park. And, well, maybe you never even need to plug it in to charge. And that's what the focus is today about this not plugging in, or actually, is it worth to spend the money so that you don't have to plug in? So Aptera says you can get up to 40 miles per day, depending on location and configuration, they say. So 40 miles a day just from solar is pretty cool. For us here, it would not do a daily drive. We have a minimum of 60 miles a day. But for many people, it will actually do easily. So it is an interesting thing to potentially get 40 miles a day in charge just from solar panels and never have to plug in. Now, that said, you will have to buy the $900 option. You will have to buy the solar panels that go on the hatch and the solar panels that go on the hood. It only comes with solar panels on the roof and solar panels on the dash, and the others are optional. And so they never really specify. I haven't found anything where they specify and say you need to purchase this, but they say up to 40 miles a day according to the configuration and location. Configuration is the key there. So if you don't buy the additional solar, you're not going to get it. Also, they say it puts out up to 700 watts. And looking at the size and everything, I'm pretty sure it requires the whole thing covered to get the 700 watts of solar. So, and well, is it worth it? That is that requires a few calculation, and depending on where you're at, obviously things are different. Depending on your location, you get different amounts of sunshine per day. So basically, solar hours are different. And so like in Tucson, Arizona, we got like 6.5 solar hours a day. So that's pretty good. In Anchorage, Alaska, on the other hand, you only get 3.4 solar hours a day. So that's not so great, right? And in the wintertime up there, you may not really get anything. So, and then in Spokane, Washington, which is just, it's about 200 miles west from here, but at about the same latitude. So, and there it's 4.38 solar hours per day. And so along with that, in Arizona, if you have 1 kilowatt of solar, 1,000 watts of solar, you can get 1,807 kilowatt hours per for that panel. in Anchorage, you only get 1053 kilowatt hours per 1000 watts of solar. And then so around here, Spokane in this case, we would get 1228 kilowatt hours per 1000 watts of solar. So obviously this is 1000 watts of solar, and the Aptera only has a maximum of 700 watts. So yeah, now questionable is, can we really make that? I mean, the average is somewhere between 12,000 and 15,000 miles a year that somebody drives. That's the average. So you may be above that, or you may be way below that. Obviously, if you're way below that, you have much better chances of covering your daily driving with solar only. If you're going above that, not so much. You will have to supplement with actually plugging in and charging for sure. Let's take a look at the top of the Aptera so we can see how that solar looks like. All right, so here now, this is on my computer. You can see the top of an Aptera, and we can see we got the solar here on the roof and the solar here on the dash, and those two come included with the base price. But then it is optional for solar on the hood here. That is an additional $300. And then the solar on the hatchback here is also additional, but $600. So if you don't get these two packages and don't pay the additional $900, you're not gonna get 40 miles or up to 40 miles a day. You're gonna get a lot less. And I actually counted all these cells here, because each individual cell will obviously produce a certain amount of power. And if you just look at the size, like the roof is smaller than the hatch and the dash is smaller than the hood, so what actually comes from the factory is definitely less than what's optional. So almost if I look at the roof and the dash, that is pretty much what the hatch actually is. So just the hatch probably doubles the size of the solar. And then we have the additional hood. But I counted those cells. On the roof, we have 50 cells. So up here we have 50 cells, if I counted right. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then on the dash here, we have 20 cells. And so these cells on the roof here are probably the most important ones, because they're pretty much always exposed unless it's shaded by a building or a tree or something, right? But they're on top of the vehicle, and regardless where the sun is, it will pretty much shine light onto the roof, and we will get some charge. Obviously, if we have the sun straight from the top down, then we have a 90-degree angle of light falling into those cells. Then we get the best output. So the roof is probably the best placement, and these cells most likely will produce the most during the life of these cells here. Then on the dash, that's a little trickier. First of all, it's behind glass, it's behind the windshield. And I don't know if that does any good or if that helps, but I would say it detracts actually. It's a minus, it takes away from it. Because we're going through a glass, and it's not just a single layer glass, it's a laminated glass, so it's 2 layers of glass. Also, it's not a flat piece of glass, it is a roundish shaped. It curves to the sides. And also, if the sun is straight on top and comes straight down, that should work the best. But again, as the light hits the glass, that may actually change the angle of the light. So that's a little tricky there. But assuming straight from the top down, we get the best amount of sunshine on those panels. Those few right there can work. That is what, only 20 cells. So less than half what's on the roof. If the sun is towards the front, it probably still works decent. If the sun is off to one or the other side, we probably have a problem. And if the sun is more towards the back of the vehicle, then we definitely have a problem, because then we can't even hit those cells anymore. The roof will be in the way basically to hit those cells right there. So optimal, what comes with the vehicle is the roof. The dash is kind of so-so. Now let's look at the cheaper version first here, the $300 version on the hood. Is it worth it? Well, on the hood we have 30 cells, so we got more than on the dash, but we still have less than on the roof. Also, if you look at it, you can see on the sides, on either side there, it goes down on the sides. So even if the sun comes straight down from the top on the hood, the sides will not get hit as much. We won't have a 90-degree angle of light falling into those cells on the sides, and that's not good. Also, the hood is angled, so as we have an angle, if the sun straight on top, we're not getting a 90-degree. The sun has to come from the front to get 90-degree light fall into those cells. So they're not really great either. I think they do better. There's more to begin with, so they should definitely produce more power than those on the dash, I would think. And then we got the hatch. The hatch is actually the largest, and we got 93 cells on the hatch. So this is huge, 93 cells. The roof has 50, the dash has 20. That makes 70. There is 93 on the hatch. That is 23 more. That is almost more as the other three combined. So almost. But so at the hatch has a relatively good location. It's a good area, and there's just a few edges right here and maybe here, just kind of around the edges where the hatch is kind of roundish shaped. So if the sun shines down straight from the top, we get pretty decent. If the sun is a little bit further back actually, and it comes in at a little bit lower angle, it may hit it perfect and actually probably produce more at that point than the other three could when the other three are at optimum position with the sun. So the hatch is a very important one, I think. In my opinion, right off the bat, I would say if you can spend $900, if you can spend $600, get that. The $300 in the front wouldn't be nearly as much as what this hatch can do in regards to solar charge. But for Aptera, you need the whole package. It says, like I said, it says according to the configuration. Configuration means you have to configure all the solar. If you don't, you won't get up to 40 miles. And then you only get up to 40 miles if you have perfect sunlight falling in at the perfect angle. How often does that happen? Never? Pretty much never. So Aptera has talked about having software that will help you find out where to park your vehicle, if you should back it in, pull it in, or actually choose another spot that is sideways to the one you're looking at to get the best sunlight onto your solar. The question there I have is, it didn't specify, or maybe I missed it, so correct me down below in the comments if you know. Does this software only tell me how much solar I get right now? And if I park it there right now, I get the best output from those solar cells? Or does that software actually take into account that the sun moves? Yeah, the sun moves. Or does the earth move? What the heck? Who knows? Something's moving, right? If you look it up in the sky, the sun moves, to us anyway. So that would be my question. Does that software that Aptera will be using tell us which way we should park, that over the next few hours we get the most output? Or does it only tell us right now? Because if I park this right now and it has perfect output right now, Well, in an hour, it may have no output. That is a possibility. Also, I don't think the software will know what's surrounding us, or it may not know that there is a tree because it doesn't see it, or a building, right? So all of a sudden the sun may be behind that building and I get nothing. So these are all kind of questions that maybe, maybe not. So, and well, it is quite expensive. It is $900 to get all the solar on top of the base. And then you have to park your Aptera in the sun. And so you put it in the sun, that means it's going to get hot inside, right? No matter what, regardless, anything you put outside in the sun is going to heat up. Even though the construction of the vehicle, the design allows for it not to heat up as much necessarily as a regular car, it will still get warm in there. And if it gets warm in there or hot, then you have to run your air conditioning to cool that down again. Does that take away what you just put in with your solar? Questionable. Don't know. That all depends. Nobody really knows. It all depends on where you park. Another common thing is people say, well, up north, it's not going to work because we don't have much sun, right? And that is not true. You don't have to be down south. It doesn't work with heat. It works with light, okay? So a lot of people think if it's not hot where you live, solar ain't gonna work. That is not true. It's actually the opposite. Solar works better in cold climates. Why? Well, electricity likes cold. Anything electrical works better in a colder temperature because everything has less resistance, which means it will have higher efficiency. So if you live in the Denver area, let's say, Denver has like 360 days of sunshine. Yes, it's freezing cold. It can be 20 below outside, but sunshine, that is the key. 360 days of sunshine in the Denver area. So you can get sun every day, and that is the key. And well, it will rain, there will be cloudy days, but those days are everywhere. But important, 360 days of sunshine and relatively mild temperatures in the summertime and nice and cold temperatures in the wintertime. So these solar cells will be much more efficient in Denver than they are in Phoenix, Arizona. Because in Phoenix, Arizona, they just heat up and they're getting so hot and they become less efficient. So it's either way, it doesn't matter where you live, you have advantages and disadvantages. I guess maybe if you live in Seattle, you have a disadvantage because it rains all the time. So it really varies greatly, and nobody can really tell you how much you're gonna get, and nobody can really tell you if it is worth to actually purchase this. So the Aptera is rated at 100 watt hours per mile. So that means for 10 miles we use 1 kilowatt hour. So in order to get 40 miles, we need 4 kilowatt hours of charge out of those 700 watts. And that is kind of hard to make. So in Tucson, Arizona, as in my example there before, you probably can do that. Barely. And so the numbers I have here is, well, basically you need over 6 hours. You need 5.7 hours of sunlight in best conditions to make those 4 kilowatt hours to get those 40 miles. Tucson only gets 6.54. We need about 5.7. So we barely make it in Tucson. If there's a cloud there for an hour, you may not make the 40 miles per day, okay? Then if we look at Anchorage, we only get 3.4 solar hours. We're not going to make it. We need 5.7 to get the 40 miles. Then up here we get 4.38 solar hours. We're not going to make it, because we need 5.7 solar hours. So now that leaves the question, is it worth to spend this money on the additional solar? I mean, besides the cool factor of having it, is it actually really worth to spend $900? I mean, the solar that comes with it. That's in the base price. But what can an additional $900 buy? Actually, an additional $900 could buy quite a bit of solar. So I bought used 250 watt solar panels for $40 a piece. They're used. I don't know how old they are. They're probably at the end of their warranty period. That doesn't mean they're at the end of their lifetime. So they're at least 80% efficient. So if they're 80% efficient, they would put out at least 200 watts, let's say. So if I need 700 watts, 4 of those panels actually put out 800 watts, and they're only $200. That is less than what it costs to put solar on the hood. Well, obviously you can't do anything just with the solar panels. You will need a charge controller or a inverter. It depends a little bit on the setup. You can get grid tie inverters, so you don't need any batteries or have to deal with anything. That just can feed the power from the solar panel to the inverter, from the inverter to your house. And you could now supply your house appliances with that power. And so we could bring 800 watts at about, well, at these 6 hours a day, we can make 800 watts real easy, just like in this example here, roughly. Even if we say these 4 panels only bring 700 watts, do the same exact thing, right? Well, we can easily bring the 700 watts, and we have a better chance of doing this daily because we can align those panels much better. We can put it in a spot where they always have sun, where they have the longest amount of sun, where they are at the best angle to collect the sun rays, so they fall in at a 90-degree angle, almost anyway. Definitely much better than on the vehicle. So I probably could even get by with 3 panels because the 3 panels would work better on a daily basis and put out more electricity than what the car can with the additional $900 invested. Inverters, what's the cost of an inverter? It depends a little bit. Obviously, usually you wouldn't do such a super small solar grid tie thing with about 700-800 watts. You would go bigger. But solar inverters, they come in different sizes and things, what they can do and so on and so forth. And they're not cheap if you want a grid tie type. So you may look at $500 there, and then you have your panels. Now we're at, let's say, $700. Then you need some wiring, this and that. And so, well, you probably come up to about $1,000, just like that. Now that said, the inverter probably would be capable of handling way more than these 700-800 watts. Also, the wiring, or in general the entire installation, if you have more solar panels, it doesn't go up that much more, because if you have to run conduit and wiring to the house or whatever, you run about the same amount. Solar panels have a certain amount of wire on it. You just plug one into each other. They're daisy chained basically in series. And so you may have to purchase more rack if it's a ground install, or you have to purchase more rail if it's a roof install. But overall, the add-on cost is relatively little, especially if you use used panels that you can get really cheap. A solar installation can be pretty darn cheap. So if you just add on a few more panels, and actually I bought a pallet full of panels, 25, and they got here, and actually initially the panels were $50. They said if I buy a pallet full, it's going to be $40 a panel. Then I had to pay freight on it. That brought the price up to about $50 per panel again. So which is not bad at all. So you can install solar relatively cheap if you don't go for a new super fancy install. I mean, if you want to have a Tesla solar, I mean, go for it if you got the money. I don't. Actually, they don't even install where we live. So, but if you design a system that just maybe covers what you need to charge your Aptera, you're about even in price, or actually you're probably ahead by having a home solar, because your home solar will produce more, will be more efficient on a daily basis than what's on the car. So you will get more out of it regardless. And if you're grid tied, it doesn't matter. If you have excess power during the day, it's going to the grid, and then you just get it back at night when you charge your Aptera. So looking at the numbers, no, it is not worth to spend $900 to get the additional solar on the Aptera. You want to be cool, you're going to get it. But in regards to it being cost effective, no, it is not. It's more cost effective to put solar on your house. Now that depends on your circumstances. Maybe you live in an apartment building. Well, you may not have that option then, obviously, to put solar on your house. So that would obviously change everything. If you would live in an apartment building or somewhere where you don't own the house, you couldn't necessarily put such an installation on, then yeah, well, you have no choice but get the full solar package on your Aptera. In any event, I like this car, and in my configuration at this point, I have the full solar on there because I want to be cool. No, I just have it on there at this point. I don't know. I may take this away. I may not. I don't know. They're not ready for mass production at this point, so it'll be at least another year or two until I have to make up my mind. But in general, from a money perspective, no, it is not worth to put the additional solar on your Aptera. It's much more cost effective to install home solar, and at that point actually install way more home solar, because the more you install, the cheaper it gets per watt anyway. So the less wattage you have, because you have the fixed costs of running wiring conduit, fixed cost of inverters, and so on and so forth. The more solar panels you put on, the cheaper it gets per watt. So that would be the way to go. So it's much better to actually install solar at home rather than spending the extra money here on the solar for your Aptera. Well, so now we got some light onto this, and we know it's not worth it. I might still do it. I don't know. What are you gonna do? Do you have a reservation for an Aptera? If you do have a reservation, did you configure it with the extra solar, without the extra solar? How did you configure it? Which miles did you choose? If you don't have a reservation for an Aptera, would you like to have one? Would you like to get an Aptera at some point? Would you get the solar? Let me know. If you're not interested basically in an Aptera, but would you be interested in a solar EV? And what do you think? Is solar on EVs a good thing, or is it a bad thing? Let me know down below in the comments. So that is it for this video. Please give us a thumbs up for this. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the future videos we got coming. And if you're new to the channel, go back and look at the older videos we have. There's lots of cool information there. It's all still relevant. It's not outdated. There's lots of wintertime driving videos. That's always a huge concern. We got lots of road trips. So that's always a big concern. So go watch those videos as well. And go down below in the description and click the link to our Redbubble store. We got some cool merch there. Maybe you find something you'd like. In any event, thank you for watching. Goodbye.